in the amount of time I have to give this talk today will be the exact amount of time I was given left to live. What I'm choosing to share today may be triggering for some. So I'm wanting to let you know to take care of your heart. My story starts April 17th, 2004. It's a day I will never forget. I went on a last-minute trip to Cancun, Mexico. I was 19 and fearless. I was so spontaneous, I didn't even think to take travel insurance. When we got to Mexico, we put our bathing suits on as fast as we could because it was the most beautiful day. When we got down to the beach, we started drinking. And then we met these guys, where we decided to start doing shots. I got so caught up in the moment that I decided that it'd be a great idea to go on a jet ski. As I'm in the water with this guy I just met on the beach, the waves were coming and crashing on this jet ski. I decided I wanted to drive it. So I got on it, and I went as fast as the jet ski could go. And all I remember is going through the waves and being pulled back and praying that this was just a nightmare. My brain was telling my legs to move, but my legs weren't moving. I could hear people screaming. And when I opened my eyes, I realized that this was my reality. When I got pulled to shore, I told them to take me to a general hospital. When I got there, I realized they didn't have the means to take care of me. Fortunately, my friend found me at this hospital and paid them under the table so that I could be brought to a private hospital, where upon arrival, they did scans and had a doctor come up to me, and he looked me in the eyes and he said, "Danielle, you are internally bleeding to death and you have 15 minutes left to live." 15 minutes. Fear enveloped my whole body. Fear of death was definitely there. But something else was there. This calm and peace came over me. I could not predict or control that next 15 minutes. I had to have faith that if I was meant to be here, that I would survive this. And if it was my time to go, then it was my time to go. Well, I woke to the Mexican doctor who saved my life. I broke my pelvis in half, I broke my right hip, and I cracked my tailbone. I had an external fixator on, which is poles drilled through my hips and across my pelvis. I was told I may never walk properly again, let alone do any other form of exercise. So when I came back to Canada, shame enveloped my whole being. I wanted to hide. I was so ashamed. I didn't want to be seen by anyone. I could not stop thinking how bad a person I am, how I'm so stupid. How dare I put my friends and family through this? And I wished that maybe I shouldn't have survived. I realized that I needed to get help. So I went to a therapist. Whereupon talking about my experience, I also shared that I was having reoccurring nightmares of my accident and flashbacks, and I'd even wake up and sweat. So I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. So how would I be able to go from surviving to thriving? Because that's not linear. There are moments in my life where I feel like I am barely surviving. And there are moments in my life where I feel like I'm absolutely thriving. And our stories are constantly shifting and constantly evolving. This glimmer of hope that came into my story was in a January day. I saw an article in the local newspaper on learn to run 10 kilometers. It's from the Vancouver Sun. And I thought to myself, I've never ran 10 kilometers before. I've never even done a race. This sounds like a challenge. People who cared about me told me not to do it. They said, Danielle, you could break your bones again. Don't do this run. But that pain inside and that desire to connect back to my body was so much stronger. So fast forward to April 17th, 2005. I'm at the start of the Vancouver Sun Run. I can hear the band playing. I see signs. I believe in you. You can do this. And I look over and I see my dad and my sister who have trained with me. I start crying and I can't stop crying. I'm crying so much that this man comes up to me and he puts his hand on my shoulder and he goes, "It's okay, sweetie. It is not that hard of a race. You are gonna be okay." Well, little did that man know that an exact year ago to date, I was told I had 15 minutes left to live. Each and every one of us has a story. We just might not know them. In this moment, when I was at that start line, my story started to unfold where I was feeling so empowered, not only to myself and connected, but to others. I was feeling so connected that I started hiking up summits in my hot dog costume to training for a full marathon. Little did I know that this clock on fear was going to start again. Less than a year later, I was told, "You have cervical cancer." And I thought, why me? Why is this happening to me? And when you hear cancer, what really went on for me is I couldn't hear anything afterwards. So what I had to do, I stepped back, took in some deep breaths for sure, and I looked around and I saw that I had my phenomenal friends and family for support. I had medical doctors right there in front of me. And I was able to realize that I'm here for a reason, because early detection saves lives. And now, part of my growth and healing journey is going and giving talks with the BC Cancer Foundation and the Canadian Cancer Society in hopes that by sharing that one female will go and get her physical. So this clock on life keeps running. And the fear hit me the hardest when my dad was diagnosed with stage 4 prostate cancer. I was in complete denial. I thought, there is no way my dad is going to die. You see, my dad, my sister, and I, we called ourselves the Three Musketeers. There was nothing we didn't do together. We lived together, we worked together, we even traveled together. So when it came time to go into the hospital, we would go to every single hospital visit together and every single chemotherapy session. My relationship with what I thought was meant to be strong started to shift. I thought strong meant internalizing everything. But then I came to realize that strong meant being open and sharing what was really going on for me. I used humor a lot to deflect how I was really feeling on the inside. Because on the inside, I was feeling lost and empty. So how was I able to go from surviving to seeing love through the eyes of grief? Because if it wasn't for that unconditional love that my dad shared with us, I wouldn't know what that deep grief means. Grief never goes away. It just changes and shifts. And my relationship with my dad never died. It's just shifted and evolved. Movement has played a huge role in my life. So much so that my sister and I decided to join the Ride to Conquer Cancer. We did it the year my dad was alive. And it's a bike ride from Vancouver, Canada to Seattle, Washington. It's 250 kilometers. My dad was so proud of us that he even had shirts and a hat made saying Three Musketeers. And I remember doing this ride and thinking to myself, working through this grief that I'm feeling and connecting with all these other riders. Because each and every rider on this ride has their own story, has their own experience with grief and loss. And together, we're connected, and this sense of community was so rewarding for me. I'm choosing not to push parts of me in the shadow anymore, in fear of what other people might think. I'm choosing to share all of me in hopes that all of me will be seen and heard. I'm now 36 years old and choosing to stop the clock on fear and not be defined by it. When I was 19, fearless meant something completely different. Fearless meant being invincible. And now I've come to realize the importance of not taking a day for granted and appreciating the smaller things in life. And the second time the clock on fear came, I realized the importance of going to the doctor versus not knowing. And the third time the clock hit me the hardest was when I realized that to be fearless meant going through your grief and feeling what you need to feel when it comes to grief. My story has evolved, and now I'm a registered clinical counselor. I feel absolutely privileged to be working with others who may be experiencing grief and loss, trauma. They may be feeling shame or anxiety, or maybe other experiences. I feel that the work that I have done can only help me, lead me to where I am helping others on a much deeper level. One of the approaches I use is called narrative therapy. And why I'm so passionate about narrative therapy is because we believe that we have multiple stories, that there is not one single story, not one single problem that defines who we are. It's stepping back and seeing that you are so much more than whatever's visiting you. So the clock on life, it's running. It's there. Each and every one of us has a clock. It's whether or not we let fear define us. And I'll leave you with this. Do you want to let fear define you or be a part of your story?